Hello, hello. Today's video is going to be focused on process trades. If you need to win now, who is the best target specifically over these next 4 or 5 weeks? And then the reverse of that. If you're sitting pretty, if you have the buy, whatever it is, and you're preparing for the long term, who are some guys that better fit building that team up to be a juggernaut compared to what it already is as that 7-1 or 6-2 team that you have? So let's start off. It's a big trade day in the NFL in general, too. Sauce Gardner to the Colts is huge for them. But let's start off with the guys. If you need to find somebody to help this struggling team, maybe you're 3-5, 2-6, hopefully not, but you're trying to make the playoffs still. Who are some extra good targets? I would say number one, in terms of the process right now, the Eagles receivers. The reason Eagles receivers right now is because of that schedule, especially if A.J. Brown continues to be out. DeVonta Smith would be a great buy right now, just because A.J. Brown will be eventually back, but not 100% sure right now. But their schedule for these next 5 games in particular, amazing. Really good from a fantasy point of view, but also really good in terms of the Eagles in general. The Eagles as a team, those receivers, you want teams that are going to be able to put up points against the Eagles defense. So it's not always going to be, oh, they're playing a bad secondary, but they're just going to blow them out, so it won't matter. These teams, they get Green Bay, which especially for A.J. Brown on the outside is really good. Detroit, another good offense that can keep up with them. Dallas, perfect. Chicago as that 4th game, and then the one like negative matchup kind of is the Chargers, which still more middle of the road for the Eagles in this case. But 4 great matchups in a row for these Eagles receivers to help make that push, and they've been getting better. They've been getting better. AJ Brown, more hit or miss, hasn't been as consistent, especially with that injury, but still getting better. Trusted enough that in this matchup or in these matchups, I like it. A different receiver, similar in a way, would be Romeo Doubs. Has been really good since about week 4. Like a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, wide receiver 1 target share. There is no Tucker Kraft. Matthew Golden now hurt. Dontavian Wicks is hurt. They have other guys hurt too. Like they have nobody in that room right now. 3 receivers injured. They do have Philadelphia this week, like I just said for the Eagles receivers. That's not the greatest matchup in the world, but after that point, those next 4 games, it is a pretty good stretch. So I would say Dubs can be a solid flex, maybe a wide receiver 2 for one of those struggling teams this year. So pretty solid overall there. When we're moving to tight ends, the guy that is most similar to that, aka in terms of the schedule, would be Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid, one of the top offenses in the NFL, number 3 scoring offense right now. That efficiency is incredible. He's still not running a ton of routes, but this year the big difference is his yards per route is number 1 in the NFL. Those receivers aren't really stepping up to the level that they need to be, and Kincaid is making up for it. That schedule until the playoffs specifically is number 1. Once it hits the playoffs, it's 25th. So it's one of those, if you have a really good team and maybe you have 2 tight ends, maybe trading away Kincaid right now and keeping that better playoff schedule tight end. But they have Pittsburgh, they got Cincinnati, those last 2 games before the playoffs, 2 great tight end matchups. So Kincaid, that number 1 schedule for the rest of the way up until the playoffs, a good guy to have on your team right now. And one running back, 2 running backs, but one is in a different category technically. This first running back, I will say Kimani Vidal is okay. He's boom bust, and you get 2 games out of him. So if you can get Vidal for really cheap, or if you're trading away Vidal, I would say more of that trade came with Hampton coming back. Hampton will probably be back after that week 12 bye. I'll talk about that in a minute. But Vidal still, even after the bad week last week, his volume is RB13 on the month as a starter. His scoring is RB20. Still a solid, like lower end RB2 with good volume they can count on. They got Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, so not a bad schedule for these next 2 games before the bye. Really only going to have it for those 2 games, but for those bad teams, I would still say that he's a start for most guys. There are 2 different very interesting players based on the schedule, and that is based on the first round bye. And they are on opposite sides. It is Jaylen Warren and Jaylen Waddle, receiver and a running back. Warren is a really good buy now if you need a running back. I would prefer him over Vidal, for example. This schedule is amazing up until week 16. His schedule for the next 5 games, he's got Cincinnati in there. He's got the Dolphins in there. One of the best schedules in the NFL. That first round playoff game is against Miami. So that's why I say the bye week is important. If you have the bye and you're not going to play anyways when Jaylen Warren has the Dolphins, well, it doesn't matter as much. But if you're trying to make the playoffs, he can help you and then it can help you in that round one of the playoffs. The problem is, if you have the bye and you have Jaylen Warren, maybe sell him. He's got Detroit and the Browns as those two playoff games in week 16 and week 17. That would make for right now the 32nd schedule for running backs. So not really something you should be worrying about if you were just trying to make the playoffs. But if you have the bye and you're sitting pretty and you have Jaylen Warren, like, yeah, he can help you secure that bye if you still need it. But just know that once we get to the playoffs, he's probably not going to be as valuable. It is somewhat switched for Jaylen Waddle. His schedule the rest of the way isn't bad at all. That week 15 game in terms of the playoffs or fantasy, that's the one that scares me. So flipped for Jaylen Warren, he plays at Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh hasn't been bad fantasy matchup for receivers. That's for sure. The problem is it's at Pittsburgh in December. There is a lot of correlation between Tua playing in these cold weather games and Waddle playing. We've seen it so far already. It wasn't like that bad in terms of the temperature, but the wind. That was the one game that Waddle's had in the last 5 without Tyreek Hill that didn't go his way. The other 4 were amazing. Then he had the bad weather game, and it was a bad day overall. That's his week 15 matchup against Pittsburgh here. After that, week 16, week 17, he's fine. So if you have the bye week, I think Waddle is the overall bye right there, with that week 15 game maybe not being the greatest and their bye week still coming up, so you can suffer through that bye week. You don't really need them right there. If you are winning right now and you are just playing for the playoffs, you have a great team, but you want to build a juggernaut, who do you buy? Week by week, an option every single week is who's on bye. This week especially, the week 10 buys, Cowboys, Chiefs, Bengals, you're fine if you can buy them and have them on your bench for a week if people really need wins that bad. The other options, this next option at least, is the running backs that are hurt. So we have 3 of them that I like in terms of Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton, and Trey Benson. There's obvious risk, but by the time playoff comes around, if they can be fully ramped up and ready to go, they can be extremely good compared to what you could trade for them. So Bucky Irving, that big example. There are not many fantasy running back ones that are able to be traded for at this point. Bucky Irving is one of them that you could actually trade for. He had the RB7 volume, RB8 production when he was playing, and I would say that was underperforming. His volume, he got so unlucky in terms of getting down to the red zone, and then right after he got hurt, the Bucs started getting inside that 5-yard line constantly. He doesn't have a goal line carry this year, and he had the RB8 production in terms of fantasy. So if he can come back strong, it might take a couple weeks. Still really love Bucky Irving overall as a player in this offense. Hampton, similar there. Vidal maybe taking a little bit now compared to his volume, but still really good volume potential. Great offense overall. He showed that talent, that efficiency, especially when he got his feet under him after those first couple of games. So he's going to miss up until probably this week 13 game. We have a little bit more information on him right now than Bucky Irving, who might miss another game, might miss another 2, who knows. Hampton, the plan it seems right now is he'll go up to that week 12 bye. They'll have that bye week. And then week 13, you're hoping for that 2-game ramp up, week 13 and week 14. And then they had those 3 fantasy playoff games. So he isn't really too much use at all for players that need to win now. But he could be a really good fantasy running back option in the fantasy playoffs down the line. So I like him there. And Trey Benson, it's still the same in terms of these backup running backs are not, so they don't have a Vidal, is basically what I'm saying. Trey Benson, I would treat him as a starter compared to, the backup running back that we were hoping is good. Like with James Conner at the start of the season, he was still taking a decent amount of workload, and the running backs, the options that they have in Arizona right now are just such a drop off. And there's a reason that 3 or 4 of them are playing. If Trey Benson comes back, I would be confident in him being that guy in this middle of the road offense. But we look at those first 4 weeks, Benson and Conner were averaging 20 points per game that first month. So Benson might not get 100% of that, but I think that he can get 75 plus and have like 15 points per game as that starter. So again, another guy that's injured, can't really be used right now, but could be down the line. Receivers, there's 2 of them that are injured that have cases to be traded for. That first one is Ricky Pearsall. There is every reason to buy him if he is healthy. His volume in those first 4 games, or first 3 games when he was actually healthy, wide receiver 9 in terms of that volume, wide receiver 16 in points per game. He didn't have a touchdown, 29 targets, 0 touchdowns. That won't be the same forever because we saw that in his 2 previous games last year. So we look at his last 5 games, 18.3 fantasy points per game. in his last 5 healthy games. He's 6th in receiving yards per game on the season. That's great. The yards are there, production is there. Still not the greatest health in San Francisco. So if he can come back healthy, he can be that clear wide receiver 1, in my opinion. And in terms of that fantasy playoff schedule right now, the 5th best among receivers. So I think he's another guy where we haven't seen too much of him, so there's maybe not as much confidence, but the potential is certainly there. Garrett Wilson, what you're banking on with him is Tyrod Taylor early. The pass rates for the Jets with Fields is 30th. With Tyrod in there, it's number 1. Either way, he has 8+ targets in every single game this year. So he's had a couple dud games, but overall, if Tyrod can get in there with this defense, and now they traded Sauce Gardner, that pass rate should be really high, and he is that clear, by far, that volume guy. So at least the volume is there. I would say the talent is enough with Tyrod Taylor in there. So still like Garrett Wilson and Tyrod Taylor can get in there. And the final 2 guys are schedule-based, and it is you don't really want them on your team right now because of it to win now. But if you are winning later, you can suffer through it. And that is both of the Colts in terms of Pittman and Tyler Warren. These next 4 games, 5 games, next 4, they are 32nd, both of them, in terms of the receiver matchups, in terms of tight end matchups. It's horrible. It is Atlanta, and then they have the bye week in there in between, and then Kansas City and Houston. So overall, pretty bad matchups, but if you can get past that, you can suffer through it. I like Pittman after that. He's been incredible, and the main reason is because he has been that short area target for Daniel Jones in a really good offense. So it's like not like Wan'Dale Robinson, but his catchable target rate this year is number 1 in the NFL. Who would have thought that would happen with Daniel Jones? Number 1 in the NFL in that catchable target percentage. He has been extremely consistent, scoring 15 points in basically every game. He's had 2 games where he didn't score 14.9. Technically, or above. So really like Pittman. He's more of the buy high because he's been doing well so recently, but maybe if you can kind of like plant the seed and be like, hey, his schedule kind of sucks over these next 4 games, or he has the bye week, that sort of thing, maybe not. The more buy low would be Tyler Warren, where my confidence hasn't changed in him at all, but still a great option at tight end, especially if you can get one of those top 5 elite level tight ends. If you lost Kraft, something like that. I think Tyler Warren is good buy low, where just knowing like he has the hardest tight end matchup possible next week, then the bye, and then Kansas City and Houston, which aren't great for tight ends. But after that point, more middle of the road. Still really love Tyler Warren long term. If you guys have any questions on trades, very similar, especially if it's those process win now, win later type of things, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer, do all my best there, and see you guys soon. Thanks.